Hey folks, so it will be the last video of the year. And this year I had a couple of challenges with the artificial intelligence and the knowledge graphs. So one big challenge that's still unsolved, and maybe we'll talk about this topic next year, it's the ontology extractions. So because, you could not build the effective knowledge graph with the LLM if you don't have the ontology for the graph, because it simply shape the rules and say what's true, what's the hallucination. And the big topic is the building the ontologies together with the graph and updating the ontologies. But today we'll talk about my second favorite topic. I already have a couple of videos and a lot of articles about time and knowledge graphs and temporally aware knowledge graphs and so on. Because, you could have a lot of structures that have changes over the time. And it's a lot of families of the graphs that have the temporal aware information, because some of graphs keep the structure, but they change the properties of the nodes and the edges over the time. Some graphs more dynamic, that they really change the relations and the nodes and all the things over the time. And it's dynamic graphs, and the most challenging part of the relations between the time and the information. And for example, if you know about the project Graffiti, they solve it in a quite simple way. That they have two pairs of the timestamps, and one timestamp when the graffiti really learned the new fact, and another timestamp it's the start and end date where this fact is valid, and the last timestamp is the expiry date. Right? And that's easy, and it's really makes sense, but that's quite challenging, because it's allow you to encode something that appear only once and was valid for some period of time. But it's not always the case, because some events could be reappearing, some facts could be valid for some multiple periods and all those things. So it's not so straightforward to add the time to the knowledge graph. And I really believe in an approach where we make the time not as a properties, but more as a structure. So we encode the time as a structural part to the knowledge graph. So we move the time from the properties more to the relations and the nodes and all other things. And I have a feeling that it's a good approach to go with the time. So it's structural time, yeah, right? And one of the structures that actually allow us to encode the time is the time trees. So you have the hierarchy of the time periods that link different nodes and point nodes to the time, or the edges to the time. So it's more the tree that could be dynamically reshaped, and inside the time tree you could have the relations in like next, previous, and all other things. But it's extremely challenging tree, and the problem that this structural tree could create a lot of passes that do not exist on practice, because you connect everything through the time relations. And time tree is cool, but it's hard to manage, and maybe it makes sense when you need to summarize some big periods of time. Another quite interesting concept that play with time and structure of the graph, it's this entity-state relations. Entity-state relations, actually what they do, that you have the entity like node, and you have the states of the entity, and the state of the entity is the separate node, and you have some little Git-like structure that your entity point to the different states in a different period of time, and you have the special edges that maybe encode some events that move the entity to the particular state, and you have the special relation that could say that this entity have a current state and point to the state. But the challenge of such structures that you have extremely complex graph that's not understandable by the people anymore. Because when you open it, you have the chains of the nodes together with their states. And to see the real shape of the graph, you need to go to the current state of every entity. So it's quite challenging. So what we could do? We could take the entity state model and make a graph multi-layer network. So the multi-layer network, it's an interesting thing that you have the multiple graphs that connected with each other, so like the layers. And it's a separate, quite interesting topic of the multi-layered graph. You could read my article on Medium about it. But the multi-layered networks, it's not the layered graph. It's a bit complex thing that you just lift the states to the separate layer together with the connections. And you have one of the layers that will promote some states to the current state of the entity. So on some layer you will have the current state of the graph, and the bottom layers will be some change set of the graph over the time. So, and your time traveling, actually it's the traveling between the layers. And maybe you could have the complex skip list strategies that glue these layers in some point. So it's extremely complex structure still, but they give us the possibility to focus on some particular timestamp. So we could say that, okay, this timestamp translated to this particular layer give me all the nodes and relations that exist on this layer. And then it will really simplify the shape of the graph. So we have this multi-layered graphs, and it's a big idea actually that instead of having some super complex structures that not fit into the plain graphs like hypergraphs or metagraphs, we could have the layered cake of the different graphs that actually just lift the information to the next level, to the next level, and so on. So as you see, the time, it's not solved problem. Especially it's not solved problem when you have the human episodic memories that maybe have indirect time, right? So when I say that something happens with me and I connect it to yet another event, somehow I have a chain of events that maybe encode the time. And this is not solved problem, because we need to train the models that are able to identify the time in this indirect language. But this one is a topic for the next video, next article. So what I want to wish you in the next year, just be happier, be smarter, do the innovation. Let's stay connected together. And if you want to do something with the knowledge graph, time, and artificial intelligence, just let me know. See you next year. Choose.